Let's get a quick take on this last one. Recent groundwater tests across Colorado's Front Range have shown high levels of toxins called perfluorinated compounds, or PFCs, thank goodness for the PFCs, are linked to several serious health issues. Not thank goodness for PFCs, just the shortened name, you know what I mean. Hotspots were found around Buckley Air Force Base, Sand Creek, and the Suncor Oil Refinery. In one test, the readings were almost 3,000 times the federal advisory amount. While difficult to say, Wendy, this seems like a very, even more difficult problem to solve because it's all over town. It's not just one spot. What's the right response when we see a report like this?
I mean, I think concern, certainly. What's the interesting thing about these compounds is that they actually are not very well regulated. Even the EPA, there's a discussion about whether like the limits that they've put out for exposure are actually low enough. And so, it's really interesting to see that debate going on as we're actually dealing with exposure to agents that, cause cancer, that cause birth defects, that, affect child development. Like, these are things that we need to take seriously. I will say I'm encouraged to see the response down in the Springs, particularly, in which, there's definitely been a lot of responsiveness to community concerns down there, and I would hope that would be echoed in other contaminated areas.
Patty, are drinking fountains in Denver are becoming less popular now?
Well, it's the problem, single-use plastic or perhaps death from the drinking fountain. You've got to decide which is your bigger problem. The water table's the issue. I mean, the problem is not, this stuff flows. So we're finding it with these chemicals. The most important thing to remember is that we have to pay attention to science. We have to take science seriously. We don't need Trump pulling back on water laws. We don't need Trump changing NOAA, the hurricane forecast, NOAA based up in Boulder. We have to take science seriously. We've got more problems out at Rocky Flats. We need study, and we need to pay attention.
Krista, where does the response start with something like this, especially when you see it in so many different areas? This is just one Air Force base, okay, but it's all over town.
Well, you think about it, for decades, we've manufactured chemicals that have improved our lives in a variety of ways, but those same chemicals, though, they've got costs, and the cost, of course, is long-term environmental damage, possible health concerns. I say identify the problem, study it scientifically, set up some standards, go in, clean it up. It can be done local, state, federal, maybe even some private money, get in there and get it done.
Eric, who needs to own this problem?
Well, there's not one source. You can look at city, you can look at state, you can look at feds. I don't have an easy answer to that, Dominic. Let me just simply comment that on what's been said. There's an irony of this coming out this week, the same week where the Trump administration has announced a substantial rollback of federal water quality regulations, water pollution regulations. Now, there are pieces of the Trump deregulation agenda which I think have benefited this country, have spurred economic growth, etc. I'm not opposed to deregulation per se, but I'm not sure water pollution is one where you really want to dial it back, where you really want to give it over to all 50 states. At the same time, we're talking about climate change and other very serious issues. If you want to make a direct impact in people's lives, particularly in other developing countries, water quality is the number one way to go. We don't have those problems of developing countries, but let's not be short-sighted here and lose what we've gained over all these years.